Hey guys, happy Friday. Welcome back. In today's video, we'll be covering the latest updates around the Bitcoin market. We'll be also sharing technical analysis, price predictions of Bitcoin, as well as the biggest Bitcoin miner. We'll cover Mara stock, what my price predictions are, what the latest updates around Bitcoin and Mara stock, what my price prediction is. Now, how high will Bitcoin and Mara go in this cycle? Most of you are wondering, is now a time to buy, sell, or hold? We'll go through all of those details. First off, if you're new to this channel, I would really appreciate hitting the like, subscribing for more related content. Let's get started, guys. First off, let's take a look at this post from HODL 15. We hear a lot about BlackRock and their, Bitcoin ETF that was established in 2024, but just look from April to May, there's just been a continuous day-to-day inflows. You see on May 22nd, there was over $877 million put into IBIT. Just today, $431 million put into IBIT. So it doesn't stop. There's so much inflows going on right now. And as there's more people buying IBIT, that's where BlackRock continues to increase their Bitcoin hodl, surpassing strategy right now. However, strategy is right behind BlackRock and will continue to just buy, but BlackRock will continue to buy as well. Let's take a look at this posting from Brewdog. Mara has nearly 40,000 Bitcoin. Just put that into context. That's the number two HODL in the entire global stock market as a public company. We know that Mara mines Bitcoin and they've also leveraged, purchasing Bitcoin as well. So having those two ways of acquiring Bitcoin, but that's definitely a big time stack, getting close to 50,000 Bitcoins on their treasury. Here's a visual that we want to just keep in mind, the top HODL 85 companies. So obviously we know about strategy currently, working its way towards one Nakamoto, 1 million Bitcoin. Right behind strategy is Mara. We have 48,237. But right now with the current hash rate, Mara is ramping that up. And, can they get to 1,000 Bitcoins mined a month? You think about that as they increase their hash rate, scale up their operations, that'll be an extra 12,000 every year. So definitely some huge upside as Bitcoin becomes more and more rare with the price of Bitcoin expected to go up. Crypto Klepto posts that Mara mined 10 blocks in the last 20 hours, and Mara has mined a total of 700 Bitcoins in May. We still have like a week left in May, but just already surpassing 700 Bitcoin. That'll be interesting to see whether we can top off that 1,000 Bitcoin in the month of May. So Mara has already outmined every other public company for the month, and as no other miner will cross the 700 mine threshold, and now Mara sets its sight on mining 1,000 Bitcoin in a calendar month. Let's go. You see this visual already surpassing 700 Bitcoins as of May 23. Crypto Klepto also posts that Mara has over $5.3 billion in Bitcoin and has implemented various strategies to leverage the HODL to generate fiat that can be used to acquire more Bitcoin. Yesterday, a partnership with 2 Prime was announced on a yield strategy for 500 Bitcoin for the current 48,000 Bitcoin treasury. So that just shows that now Mara is now deploying different ways to partner with different companies, in that Mara will allocate 500 Bitcoin to the firm's managed yield strategy as part of the deepened relationship. What does this mean? This will allow for Mara to, to have money returned to them as a way of, leveraging their, Bitcoin hodl to other companies. So 2 Prime's treasury yield strategies are built for institutions and emphasize capital preservation, liquidity, and consistent return. So definitely growing those ways for building on, revenue. So definitely some huge upside with this partnership. to build a model for capital efficiency, transparency, and innovation in the digital asset management. Cantonese Cat posts Mara daily charts, so higher highs and lower lows since April, which is what we see here. Essentially doing a back test of an inverted head and shoulder breakout right into the 20-day SMA. So obviously we do see a head and shoulders with the shoulder on the left, the head on the bottom. We also see the shoulder right here, inverted play, but we definitely may see a breakout with Mara, even though today we saw some downward pressure currently now in the sub $15 range. Bitmara posts, I'm glad you mentioned the pullback at the zero point 0.5 Fibonacci. Look at look a little closer and you'll spot it. Mara is forming a clean inverse head and shoulders pattern right at the zero point 0.5 fib level. Even better, the breakout target of this pattern perfectly aligns with the next fib level of 0.618 at $23. Patterns, fibs, confluence. This is textbook setup. Even with today seeing, Bitcoin, the miners all going down, all attributed to, just with the tariff news with the EU and, trying to push for manufacturing in the United States, which is why there's a lot of pressure with products being imported to the United States having tariffs now imposed on like EU. When we take out all the emotions with all of the news going on the macro scale updates, looking at the technicals, this really takes out the emotion. And what we're seeing with the current prices, we're seeing that inverse head and shoulder established, and hopefully we'll see a breakout of Mara, getting to newer levels, even though today we're seeing downward pressure. But I would just recommend remain patient. Why? Because keep your eye on the prize. Things will get better. We're looking at technical analysis of Bitcoin. We're looking at the daily chart. One of the key things is we see nice upward rise since that, early April, where we went from like that 4 months of consolidation, Bitcoin price going from its all-time high, dropping down to mid 70,000. People were just selling off Bitcoin. During that time, dips were definitely gifts. And we're seeing Bitcoin go up. What we see, today going from like 12,000 down to, 106,000, 107,000. Not a big drop. I mean, only like a 3% drop. So people are definitely fearful of this. But when you think about it, we're now at that support level above $100,000. Bitcoin is expected to have a nice breakout. This is just normal consolidation going on, all attributed to the macro scale updates. But we're looking, very bullish with Bitcoin so far in the year 2025, and Bitcoin expected to reach new levels. I'm forecasting we will get into that 120, $140,000 range in Q2, potentially in early Q3. But as we head towards the end of the year, we're looking prime for, 200,000, 250,000 for the overall price of Bitcoin. With Bitcoin price expected to reach all-time high in this cycle, how high will Mara go? We're looking at the technicals, on the daily charts with Mara. Obviously, we see a big pullback since that November time, but what has happened since? It's been just on this constant downward pressure in this bull flag since early April is where we started seeing some price activity, going from like low $9.80, getting up to that $17. So definitely, 70% run up from that big drop off. But then again, when you had it at like $31 dropping down to 9, that was like a big time drop off, for those who continue to hold on throughout this cycle. But the fact that we've already had it go up like 70% from the all-time low drop off, of April. Key thing is based on the technicals, we're seeing a breakout. Key thing is the price activity has broken out of the Ichimoku cloud. Anytime when we have price activity below the Ichimoku cloud, there will be continual downward pressure. But the good news is we're breaking out of that gravitational pull down. coupled with MACD showing bullish divergence, we're seeing reversal patterns with relative strength also picking up. But you see the MACD at extremely low levels, just bearish patterns. But now we're seeing that reversal pattern kick in. Key thing is price activity hovering beyond the clouds, which is definitely a good signal for a breakout. We look at the weekly candles with Mara. Key thing is, even though on the daily we see that breakout out of that Ichimoku cloud, on the weekly charts, we still see that the price activity remains below the Ichimoku cloud. However, I think over the course of time, we may very well see the price activity on the weekly candle break through the cloud barrier and then reach to new levels with Mara. Key thing that I see as a reversal on the weekly is because we've been seeing more and more bullish divergence patterns on the MACD on the daily chart. We see this crossing on the MACD on the weekly. So what happened during that prior run up with Mara? We see the big candlestick on the weekly for the MACD. So we're beginning to see that also form every time when we see ebbs and flows. Ebbs with the bull run, we see a flow of downward pressure. We see that upward pressure, downward pressure. So now we're definitely going to be back in that bullish ebb flow. And I'm forecasting that Mara, has anywhere to get to like that 30 to $80 is my price prediction as, Bitcoin gets to new all-time high. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed another episode at All I See Is W, where we talked about updates around the Bitcoin market. We covered price predictions of Bitcoin, as well as the latest updates around Mara. Let me know what your thoughts are, what your predictions. I'll talk to you on the next one.